Growing up in Puerto Rico, Maria Torres was captivated by lightning and hurricanes. Now, years later, she's made history as the National Hurricane Center's first female public affairs officer, serving as a bilingual voice of hurricane preparedness to the nation. In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, we're going off the radar with this barrier-breaking meteorologist to explore her remarkable journey. Maria will share the challenges she faced and how she overcame them.
I didn't know English when I first moved to the United States. I really couldn't hold a conversation at first.
Her vital role in bringing life-saving storm preparedness information to Spanish-speaking communities.
That was something that was a big drive for me. I really wanted to be hands-on, making sure that I would issue the watches and warnings and I could share that information.
And why Hispanic representation matters when it comes to saving lives in the weather enterprise.
Just having that connection to know and understand what they're going through, it kind of helps give you another perspective as a forecaster and as a meteorologist. People are commenting and say, hey, thank you so much for providing this information. Thank you for taking time to actually give us this translated version of this product, because now I can read it and understand it and share it with my friends.
This is about more than weather. It's about honoring heritage, amplifying representation, and harnessing the power of language to save lives. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie, and you're listening to Off the Radar, a production of the National Weather Desk. On the show, we dig deep into topics about weather, climate, the ocean, space, and much more. Our goal is to help you better understand the weather and to love it as much as we do. Welcome back to Off the Radar. I'm Emily Gracie, and this episode comes to you during Hispanic Heritage Month, a time when we celebrate the incredible contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans across every field and industry. We're also smack dab in the middle of hurricane season, so who better to talk to today than somebody who embodies both tropical expertise and cultural bridge building. Maria Torres is the Public Affairs Officer and bilingual spokesperson for the National Hurricane Center, one of the most critical voices during hurricane season. But something many may not know about Maria is she's also a degreed meteorologist. In fact, the National Hurricane Center is not Maria's first role within the National Weather Service. She has worked in forecasting and communications positions within the agency for years at local forecast offices around the country. But Maria's weather journey began decades ago as a curious child in Puerto Rico, watching storms and hoping one day to help communities stay safe in severe weather. From navigating the challenges of pursuing her meteorology degree at Florida State University to becoming the Spanish language voice that brings life-saving information to Hispanic families across the United States and Caribbean, Maria's story is one of perseverance, passion, and purpose. In today's conversation, we'll explore her personal journey and discuss why representation matters in the weather enterprise, and get the inside scoop on what the National Hurricane Center's forecast team is seeing for the remainder of this hurricane season. Maria Torres, I'm so excited to have you on today, a name that I'm very familiar with from all the annoying emails I have sent you over the years requesting interviews. And then I did a little background search on you when we became LinkedIn connected. And I was like, oh, Maria is a meteorologist. And this is very cool because I think maybe that's something that people don't know about you is your background in weather. And it's an extensive one as well. So I'm so thrilled to have you on the show today to talk about this and to talk about the hurricane season. There's a lot of buzz out there about that. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you, Emily, for having me. And it's really great to be here with you today.
Okay, so let's get a little background on you. You're a familiar name when it comes to the National Hurricane Center. You're a spokesperson. You're setting up interviews. So tell me what your role is with the Hurricane Center.
So yeah, I am the Public Affairs Officer for the National Hurricane Center. I'm in charge of mainly all the media communications within the National Hurricane Center, and especially when during the outreach season, our focus is to make sure that we have our experts available to share with the communities and our local media what are the changes that are happening for the upcoming season. But when there is actually a storm during the actual hurricane season, that's when we have more, our focus changes a little bit more, and it's more the media operations is making sure that we have available experts that are going to be providing the latest information on the hurricane or tropical system that we have out there in order for our communities to be prepared and ready for what this system may bring to our community. So it's a big role, and our load is really high again because we are the only National Hurricane Center in the country, and we are providing this information to not only the United States, but also a lot of the countries in the Caribbean and in Central America as well.
Yes, a lot of eyes on the Hurricane Center, especially this time of year. All right, so take me back to kind of growing up. Like, where did you grow up and what made you decide to get into this realm of weather?
Well, I actually am born and raised from Puerto Rico, and early on, one of the things that got me really interested in weather was going through Hurricane Hugo. Back then, I was a young girl, and I remember experiencing that and seeing the damage because that storm actually happened. We were seeing already the winds impacts during the daytime hours, so I was able to see some of that. I remember my parents boarding the house, making sure everything was safe, but there were some spots within the house that you could actually see outside and you could see what was going on. And I remember, just especially from the neighbors' homes, you could see the roof just gradually just being lifted and ripped off completely from the house, and seeing the damage afterwards after the storm happened. It was very impactful for me early on at that time, and it was engraved in my heart to the importance of preparedness. I think as a family, it's always to make sure that you need to be prepared. And from that point on, then my parents did decide, as a family, we decided to move to Florida, South Florida, actually, here in Miami. And when we moved here, just seeing the thunderstorm activity and the lightning activity that comes with these thunderstorms here in Florida is special sometimes. It's just incredible, the lightning activity that comes with it. And it's just something that really triggered me to learn more and just pursue that career in meteorology. And being in the United States, I felt like there's so much more opportunities for me. And I said, you know what, let's go for it. And here I am.
That's really interesting what you said about Hugo, because I live in Charleston, South Carolina right now, and Charleston thinks that Hugo belongs to them, you know? So I think people forget that it impacted Puerto Rico. And I'm curious too. So we're talking like late 80s in Puerto Rico. You were a kid. Do you remember anything about like warnings or forecasts ahead of time? Like, did you know the storm was coming? What was your parents' knowledge of hurricanes? Like, what was communication like there?
I don't remember exactly much details about the communication per se, but we knew right away, okay, we knew that there was a storm coming. And I remember seeing them prepared and talking about, okay, bringing things inside the house and just making these general preparations around the house, and helping family members also make sure that they were ready, prepared, they had water, things like that.
Okay, so moving forward, you wind up at Florida State, correct?
That's right.
Did you like always want to do forecasting? Like, what was your thought then? Did you think I'm going to go work for the National Weather Service, or did you have other plans?
Yeah, my goal was to be in some way or another involved in the process of issuing watches and warnings. That was something that was a big drive for me. I really wanted to be hands-on, making sure that I would issue the watches and warnings and I could share that information from early on. And that was my big goal from early on. Once I graduated Florida State, I was able to actually be a forecaster at different offices within the National Weather Service first. And so I went specifically to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And from there, I learned a lot about fire weather, winter weather. But again, it was kind of far from the tropics. So in some way or another, my goal was to come back to the tropical weather more. So after Albuquerque, I actually got a job at the Brownsville office in South Texas. So I worked there. It was a little bit more tropical weather and more, the regular connection there with the Hispanic community as well, because there was a huge Hispanic community down south in South Texas. And from there, just I got another job here in the forecast office in Miami, which led me to continue my career here as a forecaster. But one of the biggest things throughout that, it was that the media and communications was always present for me. I have either doing media interviews or trying to do translating information for the communities that we were serving in within the local area. And I always remember that I wanted to go in some way to be part of the tropical weather. And that's what led me into the National Hurricane Center as a forecaster, specifically on marine weather forecasting. So I had to learn a little bit more, adjust a little bit. But through the learning process, I was able to get a job and got a job as a marine forecaster at the Hurricane Center, which led me to the National Hurricane Center where I'm at now.
So throughout all of these different spots, it seems like all of these were pretty strong Spanish speaking communities that you were in. Did you see like a lacking of communication and something that needed your help in each of those spots along the way, as far as Spanish translation or getting the storm preparedness information to communities that need it?
Yes, from early on, I noticed it right away. Even from, I can tell you the first time that I started translating a couple of even just information about winter weather safety, because I noticed that there was some of that information missing, and I felt like it was needed for not only we have available the English content, but let's go ahead and have something available also for the Spanish media that's out there, and it's gradually growing, has been growing for a long time now. So we wanted to make sure that we can share this information about safety to those communities that are out there that don't have that capacity to either learn the English yet, or they're in the process of learning it, or English is still their second language and they may not be able to grasp it as well just yet, so they're in the process of learning it. So that's one of the biggest things early on. And then when it came to watches and warnings, one of the biggest things behind that, I really wanted to see if we could actually have this information available in Spanish as well. And when the watches were actually going out on our Twitter accounts across the nation, we were able to work on just trying to get the translation done for the watches and warnings on for flooding, tornadoes, severe weather, and starting to work on just that. At least to have that translation is already so crucial, because either they get it on their phone or the media partner can get that information and share it out to their communities that are affected, and they can take the action necessary to be safe, right? And I feel like that was from early on one of the biggest things that I was always trying to make sure that in some way or another, the communication was available there for everything that we have, for the communities that we have out there.
Yeah. And something I've learned, like when talking to some of the other folks with Noah on the translations, is that it's not like a cut and dry translation too, is that there's these nuances with, like, first of all, types of weather that may not be familiar with people, but then also like even the word like advisory. So are there little hiccups that you've kind of come along the way and worked with others to try to figure out?
Yes, that has been a challenge, right? Because not everybody, something might mean something for me here in Puerto Rico, but for someone in Mexico may mean something else. So it has become a challenge, but we've worked, especially across the United States, we're trying to work on making sure that we have a similar translation that is understandable across the board. But what becomes more of a challenge is when we're talking about the Central America and the Caribbeans, the translation can change a bit. And one thing that we worked here at the Hurricane Center was trying to come up with utilizing AI to try to have our products translated. And that's another big milestone that we've been able to achieve, to have this information automatically translated, but which is helping us because we don't need to have one person available to do the translation. But for that, we need to build a model, make sure that the model grasps a good understanding of the translation, and the translation comes out right, and making sure that people understand that in Central America, in El Salvador, Mexico, or in Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic. But overall, after grabbing some feedback from the countries and also trying to continue to work closely with them, we're gradually modifying and making sure that we're able to serve all of them as we can, as best as we can.
And I know we haven't had much to work with so far this season, but have you seen it pan out as like actual life-saving information like in the past couple of seasons? I don't know. Is there like research that's happened on that saying, yes, this translation has saved this many lives because, AI did such a good job of these little nuances?
Well, we're still in the experimental process. It hasn't really been completely official. So it recently started. So there hasn't been a full study just yet on how this has impact. But I can tell you, I feel like in one way or another, exactly what we're going to be finding out soon, because it's definitely something that you can see it already on social media where people are commenting and say, hey, thank you so much for providing this information. Thank you for taking time to actually give us this translated version of this product, because now I can read it and understand it and share with my friends. And seeing that, you can see that there's a positive effect, and people are saying, hey, this information is available. Let me share it. The National Hurricane Center is sharing this for us to get ready and be prepared.
So beyond just, translating to a different language, as we're in Hispanic Heritage Month here, can you kind of touch upon why representation of people in the weather enterprise is important beyond just this language barrier?
Oh, I think it's super important because in one way or another, you can connect with those communities out there, and you can actually understand sometimes what they're going through or the struggles. Let me tell you one thing. I didn't know English. When I first moved to the United States, I was able to understand some of it, but I really couldn't hold a conversation at first. So that was a challenge at first. But overall, I realized that now there's people out there that probably are dealing with the same situation, coming from another country, settling into the United States, building a new life here and all of that. And just having that connection to know and understand what they're going through, it kind of helps you, give you another perspective on, as a forecaster and as a meteorologist and as a human being here, that I can connect and say, hey, I understand what you're going through. How do I simplify to make sure that you're able to take the action necessary? And I think the mission of the National Hurricane Center, NOAA, the National Weather Service, to save life and property, it's so humbling in the sense where we can actually be there for them. And I feel that that's the best part about the job, that you can actually do this action of serving others through this. And not only is for me, but I feel like overall within those that speak Spanish or speak another language, that we're able to serve them that way and go extend them a hand as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine being a child coming and learning a new language and being in a new place, but then also you went to college at a English-speaking college. What was that like? There had to be some barriers there. Was it tough to go and get like a 4-year degree in meteorology when English was not your first language?
Yeah, it was at first, but the math, that would be fine. The math is you're able to get through it right at first, but then afterwards it's like, okay, I need to. It was a struggle at first, trying to get it, understand, and make sure that it was clear, and it seemed like a big mountain in front of me. But I think two things that stood with me was, and my parents also gave me this to me, that the importance of perseverance and also the importance of taking one day at a time. I think just one day at a time, you try to, there's challenges that will be presented in front of you, and trying to get through each day by day, and you see how you gradually progress. And it's a never ending learning experience. You always learn something, especially with the language. So you always have to practice and learn new things and be open to learning new things through the process. So yes, there were a lot of challenges, but here I am having a conversation with you, and here I am at public affairs officer. So, it's great. So
That's awesome. I always think back to like when I was a kid and who I looked up to and role models. So I'm curious for you, like who were role models? Did you search out people who looked like you or sounded like you?
I have to say my parents have always been a huge role model for me. The way that they have managed through so many difficulties and situations they have dealt with. I think just their consistency of keep going, moving forward, even though the challenges that may be in front of them. I think that was a big thing for me, looking at them and seeing how much they have sacrificed so many things to make sure that we had a better future and have more opportunities. And I feel like that stood with me from early on. And I still, talk to them and keep conversation. Hey, on things that have happened, and ways that maybe they could help, or and it's been great. So I really give them credit mostly to both of them.
Okay, so let's talk about this hurricane season and what's going on at the hurricane center. There's a lot of buzz right now. Everybody's like, oh, this is a bust, nothing's happening. But we said the same thing last year at this time too. So can you give me a little background on like what the hurricane center is doing differently this year? What's new? I'm seeing a lot of stuff on social media. So clearly communication is like a big push for the hurricane center. Anything new with forecasting?
Well, right now, new things is, the new cone, experimental cone that we've been looking at has been the changes of making sure that we have the watches and warnings are going to be showing up further inland, not just along the coastal area. So that's one big change that we've come a long way. So just especially now, specifically on the wind hazards. So there's still work being done for all the other hazards and working with social scientists to make sure that we continue to move forward in improving these graphics to help the community see what the hazards are and be ready for it. So that's one big change. Also, the rip currents graphical mapping that we've included, which, rip currents still a big threat out there. Like we had Aaron recently, Hurricane Aaron. It wasn't really making landfall in the United States, but incredibly so. The swell that it creates, the rip current risk go really high. So it's very dangerous rip currents along the east coast of the United States. So that on its own, by itself, it's a big problem, and a lot of people don't even think about it. We're thinking about the summer, or they travel from further north and go to the coast, and they don't even think about the hazards of rip currents, and we lose a lot of people because of it. So we've been trying to make sure that people get ready and be understanding what the risk is when it comes to rip current. So that's a big change there, and we're really proud of that too, making sure that we have that information out there. And again, I think continue on social media side. It's been a lot of effort on our side to make sure that we are there for the people that are watching us and trying to get more people to see what we have available, or educating people through using social media. So that's a big effort that we've been moving forward with, educational information that we have, and also just providing short content videos on what the latest is right now in the tropical weather outlook. So people are still vigilant in knowing, okay, I have to keep an eye on it. I also want to know what's happening in the next couple of days, and we try to provide that information out for our community. So
I know you guys are like a tight knit group, so I'm guessing you still pop in and talk to the forecasters. And do you still forecast at all, or are you kind of mainly on the communication side of things now?
yeah, now I'm mainly on the communication side, but I do go over there, meet with them in the operations floor all the time, and there's always communication ongoing constantly, and to seeing what they're thinking about the forecast, what are they seeing. So there's always a big, communication overall throughout the whole group to know what are we looking at in the next couple of days, what's happening in the next 7 days or so, what are the models showing, in order for us to be ready and prepared. Because like right now, if something were to develop in the next few days, then we got to spin up a little bit more and get ready for how to be strategically prepared for what's coming.
So, what's the buzz? Any dirt you can dish on what we can expect for the rest of the season?
I think the main message from the National Hurricane Center, I know we haven't seen a lot of activity. I know it's been quiet, but that doesn't mean that we still have 2.5 months left of the season. And we have to be very vigilant and prepared and ready, because if something were to spin up, we want to make sure that people are ready to go and you have your plan ready. Because again, if something were to develop, what if we do have a couple of back-to-back systems, right? And everything is just all together. So we got to be ready and prepared, because like I remember, if you can recall, the Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, it was a season where we didn't have a lot of activity, but Hurricane Andrew here in South Florida devastated the area here in South Florida in Homestead. So think about that. You might be that location that may get hit this year. So you just want to be on the safe side and prepared and have a plan with your family and be ready just in case.
So you live there. You live in South Florida. How do you prepare? Like, what's one thing that you've learned in your years of living there to like always have on hand?
Always have extra water in the house. Make sure that you have canned food, just the general things. Make sure that you have your emergency kit, your hurricane preparedness kit ready to go, generators if you are able to. Make sure that you have your shutters. I know here we have different kinds of shutters, so you can have your impact windows, your accordion shutters. So try to make sure that you have your house or your property safe and ready to go in case that there is something. Because especially in the job, you have to be ready even earlier than, right? We need to spin up for whatever system that comes. So I want to make sure that once I come to the office, I know the house is okay, and make sure that I have a plan with what's going to happen with my family, my son, and the dogs in the family. So all of that, there has to be a plan set in stone already. And I feel like that's really good that you communicate that with your family around in the area, so that way you're prepared and they know ahead of time, hey, can you please help me with this? And they'll be able to be ready for what's coming.
Maria, this is great. Do you have anything else you want to share about your career and your life and weather, or about the hurricane season?
I think one thing I could share is that I'm actually the first women to be holding the National Hurricane Center Public Affairs Officer, and also as the bilingual spokesperson. It's a great honor to be here, and I feel like I'm able to kind of pave the way for other women to actually continue on this role, whether it is if you guys want to be a pilot and handle the hurricane hunters and be there for anything. You have such a great opportunities nowadays, and I feel like it's important to continue that legacy, that we're opening the doors for those that are out there, that the girls can dream. Just dream as much as you can and reach your goals, because I know they're reachable. You just have to have the passion in your heart to move forward. So I think that's what I just wanted to share.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's we think about like all the importance at work that you're doing like right now, but also just existing, just being in this role is so important, just for inspiring the next generation of women and Hispanic women. Maria, thank you so much for your time today. This was amazing.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great. I loved it.
Off the Radar is a production of the National Weather Desk. Make sure you're following the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes publish every Tuesday. Thank you to Maria Torres from the National Hurricane Center for joining me today. As Maria mentioned, it's essential to have a hurricane preparedness plan and kit if you live in a hurricane-prone area. I highly recommend you go back to my earlier podcast episode at the start of the hurricane season with the Hurricane Center's Deputy Director, Jamie Rome, to get some great prep information for the remainder of the season. Thanks to the National Weather Desk and Sinclair Broadcast Group for their ongoing support of the podcast. And as always, to my associate producer, Brian Petras, for his help on today's episode. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie. Make it a great day.